Hello everyone! Happy Saturday! So my introduction to my next guest. She's somebody who has been in lots of different musicals, and her role just before we got into lockdown was the dance captain and swing in the new West End musical Pretty Woman. Really excited for you to watch this interview. Take a listen to my interview with Katie Bradley.
So my first question for you is, if you were told when you were a little girl that you would be doing what you're doing now, or what do you think your reaction would have been?
I've thought about this quite a few times, and when things that have been like monumental have happened to me, I've gone, if you told me this when I was like 12, because the thing is, I wanted to start doing this really from about the age of like 11. I think I just wouldn't have believed you probably. I'd have been like, oh, well, maybe it'll be along the lines of that, but it won't quite be that. And yeah, I think I've been very fortunate. And yeah, I think I'd have just been like, you're lying. That's what I would be like.
Brilliant. So tell me, where did it all start for you? You said that you were about 11 when you decided that you wanted to do it. How did it all come about?
Yeah, so I've been dancing since I was 3, but it was definitely like something that my mom took me to, and I was like, oh yeah, I quite like this, and it was a nice hobby. And then I remember my dance teacher, bless her, Jackie Bailey in the old Willen Hall. She said to me, she was like, to my mom actually, she didn't say it to me. She was like, your daughter should audition for panto. I think she'd be really good at it, like as a juvenile dancer. And I was like, oh, what? Okay, maybe. Went along and got it, and then I did panto, and the minute I know it's just panto, but as a kid it's so magical. Especially I remember my dancers, I remember their names, I remember everything, the adult dancers in it. I remember seeing them like stretching behind the curtain, like while I'm like dressed in I think I was dressed as a boy. I was always a boy. I was never a little girl. I always had the boy's costume on because I was really short. Anyway, and I remember watching the adult dancers and just being like, oh my gosh, they are so cool, and like stretching. They were in splits. They were all in all kinds of positions, and I was like, I want to do that. Like, imagine if I could be that good that I could do that. And it sounds really like fairy tale-esque, but that's genuinely how it began. I was kind of like, I'd love to do that, and then I did it 2 years after that, and I just continued to obviously go to dance class, and my dance teacher was like, I think she could be. I think I was a little performer. I was like, and when I say that, yes, I was a dancer, but I mean, yeah, I was all about. I was very showbiz, I think, from the minute I came out the womb. So my dance teacher was like, yeah, she'd be really good at this if it was something that she was interested in. I think she like spoke to my parents and were like, I don't think you'd be wasting your time or your, money on it. And just kind of went from there, babe.
That's the thing. I teach kids now, and I see it. You've got the ones that really love it and they're really good, and then you've got the ones with the face, and the sass and the style, and you're like, wow. I mean, and before lockdown, what were you doing?
So we had just opened in Pretty Woman. I was dance captain on Pretty Woman and Swing. So yeah, we had started rehearsals at the start of January, and then 4 weeks rehearsals, then into tech for 2 weeks, I want to say, then into a month of previews. We had our opening night, which was amazing, and then 2 weeks later, COVID. I know, so that's what I was doing. I just started in Pretty Woman.
Because that's a brand new UK musical, right? Because it's transferred from America. How was that for you?
Really interesting, because I didn't know what to expect when I got offered it. I was like, okay, and obviously I kind of heard that maybe it hadn't done very well on it. I mean, it was open on Broadway for a year, but it hadn't like blown up there, and I was like, okay, don't really know what this is going to be like. And then we heard rumors that it was going to be different, and I was like, okay. And then because it was also in Germany as well, and then when we started rehearsals, because dance captain, I sat next to the associate choreographer and the director for quite a lot of it, and obviously keeping an eye on everything and noting down everything I needed to know, like, desperately. I noticed that because they had a video reference for what was in Broadway as well, that pretty much everything they were doing on Broadway, we weren't doing. He was like, no, I don't like that. We're going to do this. So he changed an awful lot, which was lovely because I didn't know the show previous. But I definitely think the way that he's adapted it for here is better. It's clearer.
Okay.
I think it's less faffy, which,
Okay.
yeah, that's my opinion on it. Obviously, I didn't see it all the way through on Broadway, but from what I can see, the changes are, yeah, it's great. Everything that I saw that was happening in the room, I was like, this is really fun and positive. And what was quite nice as well, Jerry Mitchell, the director choreographer, he was using the cast that we had and making it work for us. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, he wasn't going, oh, well, this is what so-and-so did on Broadway. He'd be like, darling, if that doesn't work for you, give me something else. And then our cast are so talented that they would just come in and give him something and he'd be like, yes, I love it. Okay, let's do this with it. And it was nice to see that kind of process, to just run with our cast and make the most of what their specialities were. So it's good.
And also, like, I guess not very often people get to work on like a brand new musical, you know, because it's very rare, isn't it? These things run for such a long time.
Yeah.
And it's brand new to the UK. So that must have been so special to be able to do that.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, Pretty Woman, as an 80s fabulous film anyway, like, I am in love with Julia Roberts in that movie. Partly because her hair is just insane. Like, imagine having hair like that. And I love that movie. So it was a little bit of a like, ooh, going into it, because I was like, I really hope they don't mess this up.
Yeah.
Which sounds awful, but I genuinely had that feeling. And then watching the finished product now, I was just like, they haven't. Like, they've taken everything. What's so lovely is they've taken everything that is like, that you love about the film, and it's still all there. And it's still as genuine, and it's just that you've got songs inserted in there as well, and a little bit of dancing. But it's still as charming, it's still as lovely. And it was, so that was my biggest worry, was I was like, Pretty Woman's so iconic. Please don't mess this up.
Yeah.
And they didn't, so great.
What was the expectation, you know? And I think that's the thing. People are worried about what it's going to transpire like in a different medium.
Yeah, absolutely. And I felt the same about, I mean, so I worked on Legally Blonde as well, but I felt exactly the same about Legally Blonde, because I remember watching the movie and I was like, Legally Blonde the musical, and that thing in my head, which I have said quite a few times, of kind of going, oh, why are they making it into a musical? Like, it's fine the way it is. And then I remember, in my opinion, Legally Blonde is one of the best musical theatre shows. The writing and the music is just perfect, to the point now where I'll watch the movie and go, oh, I just want Bend and Snap to come on now. Like, it's so annoying. You're like, oh. So, you know, it can work, but it is a worry when you love something so much and you go, oh, what are they going to do with this?
So you said that you were a dance captain for that show. Describe what the role of a dance captain is within a company.
Okay, dance captain, like I said, during rehearsals, it's different for each company, but whenever I've been dance captain on shows, I've usually been swing as well. So dance captain, your job is to maintain the choreography within the show. So it's set by the director and choreographer, and then you are the one that, when the creatives move on, so in our case went back to America, essentially me and the resident director then keep the show as it should be throughout the entire run. So we'll hold, if you need to, you know, have cleanup calls, you'll hold extra rehearsals to just tighten it up again, which we didn't get to because we haven't been open that long. But, you know, throughout the year, you kind of just have little cleanup calls. What else do? I take warm up every day to make sure that people don't injure themselves. And if anybody's got any issues, like with the choreography side of things. So, you know, if there's something happening on stage, like a bit of traffic where you're like, oh, I keep on nearly like hitting that person on this bit, or, you know, it's got a little bit tight, I'm the one to then go in and go, okay, let's have a look at this. So, yeah, just maintain. And what I watch the show most nights because I'm off stage swing in Pretty Woman. So therefore I stay off stage and I just take notes if there's anything that I'm like, that's getting a bit, the spacing on that's a bit wrong, or that's getting a bit tight with the scenery there. Just keeping on top of things, basically. And then obviously as a swing, you have on-stage swing and off-stage swing. In Rent, when I did that, I had like a track that was easily cuttable. So that then if I had to go on for somebody who was ill or injured or had booked holiday, then it was easy to kind of like get rid of that track that I would normally do and slot into that other person's track. Whereas offstage swing, you, well, as a dance captain, as I say, I sit at the front and I watch. And then if I suddenly need to be thrown on stage, run backstage, get a costume on and get on that stage. So that's my job.
Amazing. So when you are swing, talk about, I don't know, do you have that moment of, you know, you got to go on the stage and you think, okay, do I know what I'm doing now? Because
yes, and I can guarantee, like, I feel like the only time that you kind of go, oh, I'm good with this, is when you've been on and you've done maybe 2-3 shows of that one track, and you're like, oh yeah, it's fine. But then it's funny because the first time I was ever swing was in Thriller, and I had quite a few girls to cover, and quite often, because it was such a dancey show, so it was quite prone to injury. So I would be on for one person's track 1 minute, and then they'd say so-and-so's off. So then the other person will come on and fill in that track, and I'd jump into a different track. And those days are exciting and also very stressful. But yeah, you do definitely have, especially if you haven't done someone's track for a while, say you've opened the show and they haven't been injured or ill, or but then suddenly they go on holiday and you're like, oh gosh, I haven't done this track ever, or you know, it's the last one that you do, or yeah, it can be a little bit we have this thing called swing eyes, where basically you go on stage and you're giving it all, but you're still like, your eyes are darting around to kind of check, am I in the right place? Yes, that's where I'm going. Do I go to the right first? Yes, I do. It's still very, I definitely say as a swing, it's rare that you are just completely sitting comfortable in your track, unless usually if you're on to someone for like their holiday, they've booked 2 weeks off or 1 week off, and should everything go smoothly and nobody else goes off, you are on for that track for that amount of time, and then you kind of relax into it. But in general, you still have that moment, if you haven't done it for a few months, to be like, do I know what I'm doing here? I think I do. Yes, we're fine. Are we?
Yeah. Face comes in handy.
Oh yeah.
I get all the way.
Oh yeah. Blag. You know what though, we do second guess ourselves a lot, and you retain more information up here than you realise. And yeah, there's been quite a few times when I've come off and gone, well done, I didn't even know if I knew that, but I did. So you have to trust yourself. You really have to trust yourself.
Definitely. So what have been your on-stage magical moments?
For me, the most obvious kind of magical moments have been when I've gone on for my understudy. Like, so the first time it ever happened for me was in Rent, and I was singing opposite Lucy Jones because she was playing Maureen and I went on for Joanne. And just, I'll always remember this. Like, it gets me a little bit like emotional when I think about it. It was a Saturday night in Nottingham, and it was rammed. The whole place was sold out. And when we came on to do Take Me or Leave Me, I was hooing myself a little bit because I was like, oh my gosh, this is so iconic. So you don't want to mess it up. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm having to sing this with Lucy Jones in front of an audience, and we completely sold out. And they were a great audience, to be fair. So I remember the scenes leading up to it were enjoyable, but that's such a moment. And then when we sang it and I got to the end note and we were going, guess I'm leaving, I'm gone. And then we exit the stage. The roar from the audience, because it was a Saturday night as well, was just something else. And I'll never forget it. It was magic. Without sounding lame, it was magic. And that's when I walked off stage and just went, gosh, I love my job. Like, oh my God, that's what it's about. That's what I've worked so hard for, because yeah, it was just amazing. And same, I went on for a week, because that was only 3 nights, but I went on for a week for the second time that I ever went on for a lead. And that was a different feeling. It was magic because I was playing a part that when I got offered it, I was like, let's hope I never go on, because I just don't think I can do that. It's so far from who I am as a person. So it was in Guys and Dolls, and it was Sarah Brown. And for anybody who kind of like, even probably just looking at me now, you'd be like, oh, she'd be in Adelaide, because I'm quite loud and, you know, animated. And then there's Sarah Brown, who's who's quite timid and quite naive. And anyway, and yeah, that was interesting, because when I went on, I was like, oh my gosh, I have no idea if I can do this. And then I did it for a week, and it was just wonderful. And so those 2 moments for me have just been magic. Simpler than that, though. The funniest times and the loveliest times of being on stage is when you've got, like, say something's happened backstage, and then you have to go on stage, and you can see that people are still reeling from what's just happened backstage, and the audience wouldn't have a clue, but you just have like that eye contact with your castmates, and you're like, and it's like trying not to laugh, or just sharing that moment. It really like bonds you as a cast. And some of the funniest times, like, it's all happening. There's so much subtext on stage sometimes that the audience might be able to go, but they wouldn't clock. They wouldn't clock, and they wouldn't know what it was. But it's just like an in-joke, essentially. But it's really enjoyable. That's nice. It bonds you.
I guess, like, when you've been in a show, or when you're within that industry, and you just go and see a show, you're not in something at the moment, or it's a night off, and you're just going to see a show because your friend's in it or whatever, and you just, you go and have a laugh. It's really funny when you're sat in the audience and you can see that, like, the banter that's going on between you. So, oh my gosh, I love it. It's one of the fun things. And you'll say either to, like, a friend that's in it, or afterwards, like, that was, and they pull out the jokes, if it's a comedy moment or everything, and they're really working together. And I think that's so nice to see, because when you're watching a show, you want to be entertained in any which way the show lends itself, but when you can see the people on the stage are having a really good time, I think that makes it, doesn't it?
I think that's what makes theatre so special, because in other art forms, like, you're still being entertained, but you haven't got that live interaction, and the live interaction with the people on stage as well. Because the thing is, live performance, anything can happen. So something could go wrong with the set, and it might not even be obvious to the audience, but it will change the dynamics of what's happening on the stage. And to watch that, it's just such a unique experience. And that's why, especially with everything, everybody's opinions floating around about theatre at the moment, I'm just like, there's nothing like live performance, because it's real and fresh every time. It's different every time. Even if it feels like, oh, we do this show every night, it's never the same. It's never the same.
No, and I think that's the thing. People will say that, don't they? Oh, I've been to see Les Mis 12 times. I've been to see, and you go, yeah, okay, you might have, but although the obvious changes of the cast and possibly the theatres, I'm guessing it changed every night, right? And people go, I haven't thought about that. And you think, well, yeah, because like you say, you don't know what's gone on backstage. You don't know what's happening on stage. You don't know who's in the audience for people. You don't know, what moment is special for any of that. And I guess, like, that is what's brilliant about a show. You can do the same material day in, day out, but it be just as fresh as the first time that you did it.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially, which is why it's so lovely when a swing does get thrown on, or suddenly somebody's on holiday and someone's on the lead that week, and it changes it, but not like in a bad way. Just, it mixes it up, especially when you've been doing the show for a little while. It mixes things up and it makes it fresh, and for the audience, it's a completely different dynamic. But, like, in a good, I mean, we've all been employed to do the job. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just a different take on it. It's, I love it. I think it's so refreshing.
And what would you say has been your most difficult or craziest thing that you've been asked to do in a show or rehearsal?
I think one of the most difficult things that I was like, oh geez, do not mess this up, was Legally Blonde, because I was playing Brooke, and if anybody's seen, like, the MTV version, and seen it, you're like, oh my god, she's skipping and singing at the same time. How? And I remember I did it twice, and like in two different productions, I mean. And the first time I did it, I was like, I just rehearsed the hell out of it. I was like, I can't. But the biggest fear in that is, again, it's like anything can go wrong on the night. Like, I can be as rehearsed as possible, and I've rehearsed it into my body, the skipping, the singing, the breath control after the song as well. They've written the script very well that Brooke Wyndham doesn't talk for about at least 15 seconds after she's finished, because she's out of breath.
Yeah,
they have their little, like, the lawyers will talk, and then they say something to her, and I think she says one word, and that's it, and then she has a little breath, and then she talks. But thank God, because when I did the show, honestly, if you had to talk straight afterwards, It wouldn't happen. It wouldn't happen. You just get because it's exhausting, but it's lovely as well. And when it's really satisfying marrying the two together and being like, yeah, I achieved that. But it's always that thing that every time you went out, it was like an adrenaline rush, because the minute the song starts and the minute that skipping rope starts going, you could trip. The skipping rope could go the wrong way. Like, yes, you've rehearsed it, but live performance, baby, anything can happen. So I'd say probably that. Thankfully, it didn't happen. I never ever, touch wood, in case it happens again. It never. Everything went smoothly every single time. So,
God, heads up to you. Blind.
It was nerve-wracking. You're like, please, not tonight. Especially when you've got someone in. Because when you've got someone in, the nerves are higher, and you just go, don't mess it up, don't mess it up. And you've constantly got that voice in your head, and you're still singing and you're acting like you normally do, but in your head, it's going 10 to the dozen. Don't mess this up. But if you do, they're going to see, and oh, but it's a shame that you did that bit. Oh no, it's always there.
Within the musical theatre disciplines, what do you think comes the most naturally to you, and what do you think you have to work the hardest at?
Definitely dance is my best. I have danced since I was 3, so I think that's a given. It's just, I've been doing it for so long. It just feels natural now. It would be strange to wake up and suddenly have no coordination. I'd be like, what happened here? And then I'd say acting next. I find that most natural. Singing is definitely the one that I've had to work on the most. Mainly just my confidence. I didn't sing when I was a kid. I sang just before I auditioned for like drama school, and it was definitely the thing that I was like, oh, I can't. And it was purely because I'd sang like with my brothers in the back of the car, like, I knew I could keep a tune, and I knew that like I could sing essentially, but it's different going, I need to sing to a certain standard for people to be like, she can work in this industry. And I struggled for years, and I still do. It's still like something that I've definitely got better, obviously, from the point of view confidence-wise. Otherwise, I wouldn't have done what I've done. But it's definitely been a journey. I have definitely had to work on that the most. It's still something that when I go into auditions, I'm like, right, okay, I've got this new material, and I have to rehearse it within an inch of its life and make sure that it fits in my voice properly. It doesn't come naturally to me. But I do love it. And I actually think I've discovered I'm far more capable than I ever gave myself credit for. And it's constantly just a battle of confidence, I think. So I get that. And that's why when I'm teaching dance sometimes, and I can see that that's the reverse for someone else, and that dance is their kind of thing, that they're like, oh, I just really struggle with this, and I get in my head about it. And I relate to how I feel about singing and go, it's fine. It's literally a process, and as long as you work through it, you can do this. But it's definitely something you have to keep on top of and remind yourself of, and be kind to yourself and be like, I need to give myself credit more than I do for what I am capable of. Yeah. So yeah, definitely singing is the one that I struggle with the most. But I love it equally. It's the confidence thing more than anything. For sure.
It's hard, isn't it, when you feel really comfortable with either one or both of the other disciplines, and then you've got one that you're just, like you say, you can do it, but it's like, oh, it's almost, you come back to that small child. You get really like fearful of what everybody's thinking and what you look like, and what, and it's really difficult. And I feel so much with dance. I mean, I've always had a battle with it. I used to dance when I was little, and I loved it, and then for some reason it became the thing that I did the least. And then because I didn't do it as much, you become like out of practice and you're not as confident. And I mean, I choreograph shows for these kids, and I love that, and I love doing that, and I love teaching it. But if ever anyone said to me, can you show me the choreography, I'd be like, no. Even though I've done it, I can teach children because that's where I'm comfy. But if you said to me, oh, can you see it, I'd be like, no. Because that fear of, oh gosh, I'm on the spot, I feel a little bit judged. And I think like everybody judges everybody all the time. That's just the reality, isn't it? And kind of a lot of the time you go, oh well, who cares? And if I'm singing and if I'm acting, I totally don't care. You either like it or you don't. But with the dance, I feel really like, you feel really vulnerable, and you're like, oh, I know I can do it, because if I couldn't, then the kids wouldn't look like they do. But you just don't feel as comfy with it, and it only takes one person to go, oh God, what were you doing there, for you to go,
yeah. Oh, for many years when I was growing up, just small comments that probably they thought were really harmless, but things like, oh, don't give up the day job, yeah. And that as a little child would go, and I go, oh, I can't sing then. So that's kind of what happened to me when I went to college. And because I wasn't so confident with my singing, in college, you do kind of like, obviously because you show your best thing, they were like, oh, she's a really great dancer. But kind of like, we're like, oh, she's not that competent a singer. So, and that just never grew. I'd say that only my singing kind of grew. I gave myself a kick up the backside, basically, because I was auditioning for musicals, and then my feedback was like, yeah, her singing wasn't quite strong enough. And I was going to all these dance classes, and, you know, fine. And then I was like, why am I investing my money in something that actually I always get through the dance rounds? I need to take this fear that I have, grab it by the horns, and go, okay, let's do this. And it took a while, like it definitely did. And as I say, I still work on it now. But it's little voice in your head, and it's little things that have been said along the way that, you know, they do kind of, they affect you, and you just have to battle against them. And just, I have to now, when I sing, I have to I've rehearsed it so much in my room that it's kind of like I'm just doing it again. I've done it 20 million times at home. The fact that I've got an audience, it doesn't matter. It's exactly the same as if no one was in the room. And I've trained myself to kind of think like that. And it's made it a hell of a lot easier, to the point now where I'm in an audition room, and because I've done that for so long, that I can now step it up a notch and go, okay, there are people in the room and I'm okay with it. Yeah, because it's just a journey. You just have to kind of build on it, but like you said, the minute you stop practicing it is just when you start to doubt yourself again. And it's not that the ability's not there, it's just the self-doubt.
Yeah,
this is a very powerful thing, and it's important to know that, like, being preachy now, but it's important to know that you have control of this, even when you feel like you don't. You can take hold of it and go, no, I can do this.
Particularly if you took the job, you're good enough to be there. If you weren't, they wouldn't have said to you, particularly not if you're swing. I mean, my God, you know, you're going on, like, at the end of the day, and you're covering all these different parts. I mean, for me personally, I would find that harder than if I had a role, because if you've got a role, that's your role, right? And it's like, well, you know, you're doing it. Whereas if you're swing, you think, my God, I've now got to learn not just this role, I've got to learn all these other roles. And who knows, I might not be on for a month, but then in that month, I'm on all the time for all these different people.
Yes, yeah, exactly. And it is like that. And it is quite daunting. I remember the first time I ever got offered swing, I was like, what? But then once you've done it, especially when I did Rent was lovely, because whoever I went on for had a little featured part. So although it was kind of daunting, and you'd be like, oh my gosh, I'm on for Jenny today, and she's got that high note, okay. And you know, it's when you achieve it, it's so satisfying. So although it's scary, I learned a lot on that job, and it's purely because I put myself into situations where I was like, this is scary as hell. I remember walking in that room, and everyone that was cast in that show are like red hot singers, like, oh my God, so talented. I remember standing there and going, why am I here? But then I also took a moment to go, because you're dance captain, because all of these people are not dancers, you are that force to feed what you know to them and also learn from them. And that's exactly what happened, like, throughout the whole course of it all. Like, just watching and taking everything from the amazing actor singers that I had around me did wonders for me, because when they went off, I went on for them.
Yeah.
So you have to step up. You have to go, well, I've got to just do it. And you improve from doing that, because you've thrown yourself into a scary position and just gone, right, well, I haven't got a choice. I've got to do it.
Going on. And the thing is, that's it, isn't it? You know, that's what you got to love about it.
Yeah. The variety is really thrilling and lovely as a swing. Yeah, for sure.
So if there was one thing that you were told you had to live without, what would you go, no?
Roast potatoes. Roast potatoes. Yeah, I have an addiction.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, genuinely. I know that sounds really sad, but if you took that away from me, I think I'd be a really unhappy person.
Oh, I'm probably going to break your heart now, and you're probably never going to want to speak to me again. But I don't really like potatoes, so you could have mine.
Okay, well, this can work. This is a good relationship. I can steal yours. Yeah, that's fine.
You could have mine. I know I'm that person that, like, you know, if you go to like a carvery, or like if you go somewhere for a dinner, people go, "What do you want?" And I'm like, "Can I just have extra carrots, because I don't really like potatoes?" And people go, "You don't like potatoes?"
The whole table just goes.
I'm sorry. Do we know her? Like, I'm sorry. You know, people go, "Well, what about chips?" And I'm like, "Not really. You don't like chips?" And I'm like, "Well, they're okay." Literally, people are like, "No, I'm sorry, I don't think we can be friends."
I definitely think I'd definitely have roast potatoes over chips. Although, don't get me wrong, I still eat chips. But I'd definitely say I'd be very unhappy if you took them away from me. I think as well, maybe a more genuine one is not genuine, but you know what I mean. Sunshine. I really struggle when the weather's not good.
It's in an awful mood, right?
Yeah, it really affects my mood. I genuinely, like, when the sun comes out, I'm a different girl. I love it.
And I kind of, for me, mind if the weather's not good, because if I know that it's not going to be good, you know, like in December, you know, it's going to be wintry and a bit. I've got that. When it's June or July, hello weather, what are we doing? I can't cope with that. Like today, you know, I'm feeling summery. I've got my summer t-shirt on, looking also, and then you look outside and you're like, I'm sorry, what is happening? You know, I don't. I spoke to someone the other day, and she said, oh, she was in LA, and she was like, oh, what time is it here? And I was like, oh, it's quite late. And she was like, oh, right, that's why it's dark. And I was like, oh no, it's just been awful. We've had thunder and lightning. And she was like, do you want to see my outside? I was like, not really.
No, you're all right. You can keep that.
I know, and I think people forget, you know, who are from elsewhere. I'm like, yeah, we call it sunny Wales for a reason. So what would you say would be, if you had to put on a favourite tune or a go-to playlist, what is it for you?
Go-to playlist. I mean, 90s. I love 90s. 90s tunes are the one. I mean, I make my own playlists on the old Spotify. There's one called Summer Jams, but that's not 90s, but I've definitely got a 90s playlist, and that's the one, like Teenage Dirtbag, or like Spice Girls, or I Want It That Way, all of that.
Oh my god, I did my workout this morning to a Backstreet Boys playlist.
Yeah, that's the one. And then what surprises me is when songs come on and I'll be singing all the words, literally all the lyrics, and I'll be like, how do I even know this song? And don't you think that songs that you knew from when you were a kid, they just stay there. They are there. They're embedded in your brain. And when they come up, you're like, I remember this. And you're singing it and you go, I've no idea what it is, but I know all the words. Yep. I love that. And then you check and you're like, this is a tune.
I know. Bop. I mean, you know, you hear that and you've no idea what they're singing. Haven't got a clue. I'll
still sing along. I just don't know the words. I make them up. But yeah.
I know, and I always rat on people. It drives me nuts. Everybody always calls me the human jukebox, because they're like, Jen just knows every song. I obviously don't, but like, I love a good tune, okay? And when people don't know the words, my mum is killer for it. She never knows the words, and my younger brother, never know the words to anything, and it drives me crackers. Like, they'll be like, and I'm like, you don't know the words. But that song. But that song came on a couple of weeks ago, and we were singing. It was a beautiful day in Wales, and we were singing outside. And I got caught out. I'm sorry, do you not know the words to Bop? And I'm like,
I think, does anyone know the words to Bop? No.
Wrote it, know the words. You know, they just like mumble it, you know.
And then you get to the chorus and you're like, I'm in safe territory. Yeah, love it.
So my last question for you is, after lockdown, what is it that you're hoping to do?
Get back into Pretty Woman. Well, yeah, I mean, we're obviously waiting to hear when that's going to happen. But other than that, I don't really know. I mean, just enjoy life. I mean, yeah, like this time is just. I'm very good at enjoying my life anyway. I do a lot of travel. I'd love to go traveling, but at the same time, I realise that, that's. I think I've been very fortunate. I thought about this. My housemate hasn't been on holiday in 7 years, and I was like, what? Because I think I've been very fortunate in the last few years that I've actually done quite a bit of work and I've been on holiday an awful lot. Like this is the kind of year that I was just going to stay put because I had Pretty Woman, and I was just like, it's fine, I've been traveling for the last few years. So I would love to travel, but I don't necessarily feel the need to because I have done a lot of it. But just enjoy life, like the small things. I think that's what a lot of people have said about lockdown as well. Is just we've been forced to kind of go, what should we do now? So like, I like playing card games, and I like, I did a creative writing course, so I'm doing a little bit of writing. Like, so I'm just going to continue to kind of do those things until I can kind of like get my career back on the track. But I do teach as well. I teach, and I quite enjoy teaching. And even over Zoom, I enjoy teaching more than I ever thought I would. Teaching dance, that is. And yeah. So just, I don't really know when we come out of lockdown. See my friends, obviously. See my family. I haven't seen my mum. I haven't seen my mum since, no, can't be Christmas. And maybe I haven't seen my mum since Christmas.
Oh my God.
That's shocking, isn't it? But I think it's because after Christmas, yeah, it must be. After Christmas, I went into rehearsals for Pretty Woman, and then it was just crazy. And then we went into lockdown. So, yeah, because she hadn't even come to see the show. She was going to come for press night, and then she couldn't for some reason, I think. And yeah, she hadn't seen the show yet. So yeah, I definitely see my mum. Bless her, she's my best mate. I love that. So I definitely see my mum and just see my friends and just try and make the most of the time and not get too down about the theatre industry at the moment. And just when that gets going, here we go.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's the thing. It has been a time that nobody wants again, but it's been a time to reflect on things that maybe you were just too busy to even think about before, didn't even cross your mind, and little things, and like you say, family, friends, and just enjoying time that you've got, because sometimes time is like limited.
Yeah, and also I think it makes you realise as well, you actually have more time than you realise. It's just it's making the time for it, isn't it? But yeah, I'd like to think that going forwards, I hope I can stick to that, because we do get like that in life. Oh, I haven't got time. And sometimes you genuinely don't have the time, but we always have more time than we think we do. Yeah. So I think hopefully I'll take that away from this experience and kind of apply that to my life and be like, I have got time to do that. I just need to make the time. That's all.
Definitely.
Get off my phone. That's what I need to do.
I know, and there's always an excuse, isn't there? You're always like you say, I'm so busy, and because your phone is like everything, isn't it? Emails, calls and everything, and you can make that excuse, can't you? I'm just doing an email. It's like 11 o'clock at night. I'm just doing an email. Yeah. It's like figuring out, actually, I could have done that email at 6 o'clock instead of wandering through Facebook or Instagram or.
Exactly. And that's what it is, isn't it? It's managing your time wisely. But you are right. I mean, I think the reason that we've all fallen into this trap with our phones is purely because everything's there. Being able to talk to people, video chat with people, watching TV, it's all in one device, having a camera. It's all there. So I get it. But it is nice to, even just doing this with you. My phone is in the other room, and I quite like the fact that I'm not touching it for an hour or how long we're on here, and it's just and actually, sorry, I'm just chatting your head off, but literally, like when I've met up with like a few friends for like a little social distance little catch up, it's nice because my mum the other day was just like, oh, I tried messaging you, and normally you answer back straight away, and I was like, well, I was actually just living life actually with my mate.
Thank you so much for chatting. I really appreciate it.
That's okay. And it was lovely to meet you. And
thanks. I'll keep in touch.
Lovely.
Yeah. Amazing. All right. See you soon.
Okay. Bye. Bye.
Thank you, Katie. great to chat to you, and we really hope that the show is up and running again soon, because I personally really want to see it. Sounds incredible. Hope you're all okay and hanging on in there. I know it's still a really uncertain and scary time, and I hope that, if nothing else, this channel just gives you some time throughout your week to have a smile, remember theatre, and look towards the future. Lots more great guests still to come. See you soon, guys. Take care. Bye.